Good morning, Knicks Nation. Today is Friday. It's the 5th day of May 2023. I hope that you and your family are safe and healthy today, and that the needs of you and your family in terms of food, shelter, clothing, as well as health are being met today. Blessings upon those that work in the healthcare field, who along with the first responders are every day trying to save lives. And those that pick up garbage for us to keep streets and sidewalks and parks and places in the environment clean and disease free. And those also that make deliveries of important things for our convenience that we take for granted. Double blessings upon the men and women that are out here trying to help rescue, deliver, and recover the teenagers and the children who are the victims of child molestation, child abuse, sexual exploitation, and pedophilia. The victims also of prostitution and child prostitution. The victims also of pornography and child pornography, human trafficking and sex slavery. Double curses upon the perpetrators of all these things. Double curses upon those who profit from these things. And double curses on the perverts that create the demand of which the other perverts provide the supply. Finally, blessings upon the homeless. There are nearly 600,000 men, women, and children homeless in the United States, and it's mostly children, and millions around the world in similar or worse conditions, and blessings upon them, for theirs is the kingdom. Yesterday, Mike Budenholzer was fired as the head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks, which I felt was a really bad move by Milwaukee Bucks. We talked about yesterday, or we talk about all the time, long-term sustainable winning. And you hear me mention franchises like the San Antonio Spurs or the Miami Heat as examples of long-term sustainable winning. You hear me talk about culture and the building of culture and how the front office, and the head coaches all should be on the same page. You hear me talking about drafting properly and scouting properly and developing properly. And then when you get fortunate enough to get a generational talent through a draft, like a Giannis Antetokounmpo, you wisely build around that talent to bring the most out of it, to get the most out of your team. When you change coaches, when you've done all that and change coaches, you're starting over and wasting a lot of time and talent. Mike Budenholzer won an NBA championship 2 years ago. He was NBA champion 2 years ago. This year, they won 58 games, and you fired him. Giannis Antetokounmpo was hurt 3 of the 5 games in the first round. They weren't going to win without him, and you fired him. The difference between the Milwaukee Bucks, let's say, and the Miami Heat, let's talk about that for a second. Miami has no generational talent. They got guys like Jimmy Butler and Bam Adebayo, who are star-level players, and Tyler Hero, star-level players, up-and-coming players, but then none of them are like LeBron or Giannis. And then they have the most non-drafted players in their rotation in the NBA. And yet here they are in the second round of the playoffs again. Okay? Why? Because one of the reasons is Pat Riley, when he took over as first coach, then president of basketball operations of the Miami Heat, he built a culture. And a part of that culture is his coach, Eric Spoelstra. Eric Spoelstra has been a coach in the Miami organization since 1997, 26 years. Okay? 15 of those 26, he has been the head coach. Okay? And he has been a part of 3 championships and 3 Eastern Conference Finals. And part of the reason is him and Riles on the same page. The owners letting them do their thing. And they build a culture so that they could get players that are not generational talent. And because of their culture, they can get the most out of those players. And if they happen to ever get a generational talent, like a LeBron James, automatically they're favored to win the championship because they have the culture. Okay? Milwaukee drafted Giannis. They built wisely around him. They got a coach who has a 59% career winning percentage. That's his career. You win a chip, and then you fire him. They did this before because they had Jason Kidd as their coach, and there was a lot of rumors about people not getting along with Kidd, And I heard all that, but at the end of the day, Giannis Antetokounmpo liked Jason Kidd. And that's the most important thing right there. And they fired him. So this is the difference between franchises that are winning long term and one that might win a chip every 50 years, like Milwaukee and like New York. Now you're going to hear people in New York talk about hire Mike Budenholzer and fire Tom Thibodeau, which would be stupid. You're building a long-term sustainable culture. You have your coach. You actually have his heir apparent in Johnny Bryant. The situation is set up. You have your front office. You know, I would like to add Budenholzer if we could, as an assistant coach. That would be tremendous. But you're going to hear people asking to replace Tibbs with Budenholzer and act like this is good. You see, it goes deeper than sports, but in this day and age, everybody believes everybody is disposable and replaceable very quickly. But if you want something longer term, you cannot work like that. You have to have a culture. You have to have a oneness between the front office and the coach. You have to have good scouting, good development, good drafting. And then you pick and choose your free agents, a Josh Hart, a Derrick Rose, a Julius Randle, a Jalen Brunson. You pick and choose your free agents based on what you need to continue your upward trajectory. That's what the Knicks have done. So before the noise starts about let's go after Budenholzer, I mean, I had a couple of people talk about, let's go after Dante DiVincenzo. For what? Like, you have to stop and look and think about what you're saying. Again, let's take a look at Dante DiVincenzo. Really good player. But who is he going to replace? And why are you going to break up your team for him? Is he going to bring you to the next level by sending out a Josh Hart or an Emmanuel Quickly or a Deuce McBride that you drafted and developed yourself? See, people don't think about this because everything is disposable. But if you want, and I want the Knicks to be perennial, I want the Knicks to be the Miami Heat. I want them to be in the playoff conversation every single year. And if they happen to get higher level talent, in the championship conversation because of their culture, because of what is expected of the players that come on that roster. Everybody that goes to Miami, they're expected to play tough defense. They're expected to be tough. Otherwise, they won't cut it. Okay? And getting all of these guys that aren't drafted in Miami, what they do, like a Duncan Robinson out of Michigan, who played at like 2 other schools before Michigan, and then came to Miami and then got big money because they were very, very faithful to him after he put in his time in Miami and developed his game. Okay? They do that in Miami, and that's the secret, in my view, of them being long-term sustainable winners. Now, they're giving the Knicks all we can handle in the playoffs because of the culture. They don't have Giannis on their team. They don't got LeBron. They don't got Stephen Curry. They got good players now. I'm not saying Jimmy Butler, good players, all-star. So is Bam. But without Tyler Hero and with guys they ain't even drafted, they're giving us, and it's not because the Knicks can't play. It's because they have a strong culture of long-term sustainable winning. They are what we should want to be. They are what we should want to be. Okay? Yes, LeBron could go to Cleveland and then, push for cheap chips as a young man, get 2 of his banana boat crew and go to Miami and win 2 chips, come back to Cleveland and join Kyrie, win another chip, go to LA and get Anthony Davis, win another chip. He could do that because he's a generational talent. And I mean a generational talent. He could make any other 4 guys around him look like all-stars, and he's done it. And don't give him a guy that's actually talented to play with him, which is what he's always looking for. But that's the exception that proves the rule. That's not the rule. Okay? That's the exception. Nobody wants to really go to Cleveland, right? But people want to go to Miami and people want to go to LA. Nobody really wants to go to New York for multiple reasons. All right, even though it's a huge market, to me it's the greatest city in the world. Truth be told, guys don't really want to come here. Okay, so you have to build it the right way. Budenholzer come out of the Popovich tree, spent like 15 years under Coach Pop, and then became head coach in Atlanta, and then of course we know Milwaukee. He was coach of the year in Atlanta. He knows how to coach, and I'm sure he's competitive like any other coach. He wants another head coaching position like now, but he may not get it right away. But I would like to have him on Coach Tibbs' staff. Um, that would be good. Not to take Coach Tibbs' place, not to take Johnny Bryant, not to jump over Johnny Bryant, because Johnny Bryant's the heir apparent. That's our culture. But he would be a really good head back there in strategy, man. I'll tell you that. So if we're going to talk about Budenholzer, that's the way I would want to bring him in as an assistant, but not to take Tibbs' place, to fire Tibbs and get Budenholzer. I mean, that's short term, that's short sighted, and again, to me that's the biggest affliction that Knicks Nation suffers. Short sightedness, very short sighted. You guys ready to trade players when they have a shooting slump, or get rid of players because they have a bad game or a bad week. You got to look more long term than that if you want to build a perennial winner. Okay, because long term, culture, talent, coaching all works together to build a long-term winner. San Antonio got 5 rings. I want the Knicks to get there. Okay? I want the Knicks to get there. And we got to stay the course to get there. So here we are right here in a battle with Milwaukee, right? And so the Knicks could win this series. And of course, so could I said Milwaukee, I meant Miami. Battle with Miami. And so the Knicks could win the series, so could the Heat, obviously. It's 50-50. It's tied up. Anything could happen. Honestly, though, the Knicks have more talent. The Knicks are more talented than Miami is. As a roster, the Knicks are more talented than Miami is. But again, it's the culture, the toughness, the development that Miami has, and they've been doing this a long time. This just start 2, 3, 4 years ago. This started back in, when Riley first left and went there in the late 90s. That's when this started, okay? And so, that's the battle. The Knicks, again, can win, but it's going to be a battle. That's why we play the games. But before everybody starts jumping on, let's go get this Budenholzer bandwagon, or go get anybody, please think about the long-term sustainable culture of your team, what you have built, where you're going, what you have built, the time it took to build what you did, and the effort it took to build what you got, and where you're going forward. Okay? And there's the problem with a lot of Knicks Nation. They don't look about where they're going forward. They can only think about the latest slump. No, but the Knicks have a really solid foundation right now. I'd like to keep it going and continue to build. Like I said, you take this same roster with no changes. You bring them back next October. They win 50 games next year, okay? Because it's just an upper progression combined with the continuity. So, anywho, before I just wanted to put that fire out as much as I can before it even gets started. But anyway, the Knicks play Miami tomorrow at 3:30. I'm not going to see the game. Obviously, it's going during the Shabbat, but I'm going to see it Saturday night, the replay. It's 50-50. I like the Knicks in this game because the Knicks play well on the road, because Julius Randle decided to man up and play tough with that ankle. They sat out Brunson yesterday, as I would have. You want, at this stage of the season, you don't need to know what Brunson can do. You already know what he could do. So what you want to do is try to make sure he's as ready as possible for every game. I feel very confident in Emmanuel Quickly, even in this scenario, even with his shooting slump. In fact, it's something like this. If you need to call on him and Brunson can't go, it's something like this that will cause him to break out. But I'm confident because that's part of what the Knicks' strength is, the depth of the team. But if Brunson does play, and he's the straw that stirs the pot. If he does play, I like the Knicks' chances a lot with Brunson and Randle there. And of course, the full contingent. I'm really hoping that we can get Grimes back in the starting lineup. And again, it's nothing against Josh Hart at all. But I just feel like Grimes fits the starting lineup better. Him and Hart can definitely play together in a lot of sets, and they did in the last win. Grimes is the better shooter, the more confident shooter, and Hart just adds a dimension to Mobb Deep that, like I said, puts us on another level in our bench crew. So I'd like to have Grimes starting again. That'll get him back in rhythm. I'm hoping in these last 3-4 days, he was playing and working and getting himself back in rhythm, and his shoulder's cool, because if we could get him, to me, it's the key. We can get him. That's another leg up the Knicks have on Miami. So they're on both ends of the floor. So we'll see what happens. But even if he's not, then he's not. Let's go ahead and do this thing. Anyway, we'll talk to y'all. Please enjoy yourself on Friday. Be safe out there, Knicks Nation. Shalom.